And so now we can have Tobias Puehse, so Tobias on stage, right? As I think this is a good follow-up from Jonathan's talk about interacting more in more places more often, the impact and APIs on the next generation of in-store point of interaction. Hello, Tobias. Let's see if the technical stuff is solved. And again, I really invite you, so Jonathan and Martian van Alstein wrote a paper called Reverting the Firm with APIs, like how so there is a full 29 pages research paper on exactly what he was presenting here. So I really invite you to read that paper.
Perfect.
Reverting the firm with APIs, like the idea of the firm can be bigger than its own walls because there are more experts outside the organization, more assets outside the organization. So if you open APIs, you embrace this ecosystem and you capture that value. So you revert the size of the firm into the size of the ecosystem. Yeah. So that's the idea. It's hard to find, but yeah. But they did a HBR, Harvard Business Review, let's say sum up. But if you call Marshall van Alstein Reverting the Firm, you will find it. It has different titles. Sometimes it's how network effects revert the firm, how APIs revert the firm. Solving the technical issues.
I was going to say, I don't even really need slides. I can just talk about it without.
We can start then at least. Okay. So some warm applause for Tobias. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me today in this session. And I'm going to come with a kind of business perspective and from a commerce perspective. I think all of you guys are familiar with e-commerce and the impact that APIs had on e-commerce. I think the next frontier that we think about is actually the point of interaction that many of you, all of us actually have day to day. When we go to the restaurant, when we go to our favorite grocery store, representing about 80% of total volume transacted around the world is actually physical commerce. Physical commerce is still the majority, even though we see e-commerce growing, and we hear a lot of stories about, obviously, e-commerce replacing many physical transactions. But how many of you guys actually went back to the store or went back to a restaurant after the pandemic? Right? Do you actually enjoy that experience generally better than just having everything delivered to you by the FedEx guy that is your best friend now? Right? And so that is actually kind of the focus that we have as we think about interacting more often in more places. Now, I think we're in a really strange situation right now when we think about the actual environment that our retail partners operate in. And I think Forbes coined this very well in about May in an article where they kind of coined the term deflationary technology. And so when we think about retailers specifically, one of the big advantages that technology can bring to them is that they can drive a digital in-store experience. Self-checkout machines, I'm sure many of you have used before. You think about your digital kiosk at McDonald's. I don't know if you go to McDonald's, but now you can check into McDonald's. It's not just about. And when you check in, you get loyalty, you get personalization. So when we think about deflationary technology as an overall concept, which is powered by APIs to a large degree, is really the next frontier. And what it really benefits merchants and retailers is the lower cost of operating, while consumers actually benefit because now you can more easily avail of your coupons, your rewards, kind of offsetting some of the inflationary pressures. So that's why we believe that actually the next-gen point of interaction is the right time, is actually now, to work with retailers across the world of digitizing the in-store experience. Now, there's a couple of challenges. The first challenge is really about consumer and industry adoption. So how many of you guys have a McDonald's app on your phone? I'm just going to do a lot of surveys here. It's my focus group. Nobody has McDonald's app. One, my best buddy there. I make my coworker go to McDonald's all the time, so sorry for that notion. Anybody have like a ShopRite or Shop and Stop or all of these grocery apps, right? Like maybe you use it, but not many hands go up, right? So when we look at research, about 5 to 10% penetration among large enterprise brands that they achieved digital penetration with their customer base. That means 90% of us don't engage digitally. Best in class, maybe your favorite coffee maker, I won't name them. But even with them, probably about 75% of customers have no digital relationship with that brand. So that's a huge runway. And especially when we think about physical commerce being 80%, think about the kind of opportunity size you're dealing with versus in e-commerce that is like the remaining 20%. So how do we drive digital adoption? Big problem. Now, when we have digital adoption, it really comes back down to personalization. How do we think about actually driving real benefit to retailers? How do we think about ultimately, all right, there are some slides, but how do we think about loyalty? How do we think about ultimately the transaction component? How do we make consumers transact more seamlessly across different touch points in a consistent and ecosystem way? So those are some of the key challenges that we're seeing. So I'm going to give you a little bit of preview of kind of what the mission we're on, right? As Mastercard, we actually want to provide more choices through APIs to retailers so they can actually create the digital interaction of their choice, when, where, and how they want, ultimately. But then also thinking about not just choice, but actually bringing the best of digital into the store to kind of accelerate this deflationary technology impact for consumers and for the retailers themselves. And then ultimately, not just think about payments, but making information portable across all of the touch points. So we actually ask ourselves a lot of these questions. What if, after physical transaction in a store, I could actually convert that to a digital experience, right? We all transact physically. You have not adopted a digital experience for that merchant. Can I flip a switch through a simple consent, through a simple API, and actually just simply say like, hey, next time you go to your favorite grocery store, it's going to be a card on file. Would you be accepting that? Maybe, right? Because just like your Amazon experience or your Uber experience, a card on file in many ways simplifies your life, makes the loyalty and rewards available to you. Now, when we get into that moment, and it's about identifiers, how do we create new identifiers? Biometric check-in is something that many people talk about. If you go to Whole Foods and Hudson Yard here in New York, you can hover your hand over a payment terminal to pay. All of these are new check-in experiences. Make it a little bit easier, a little bit more simple for you to identify yourselves to a retailer in different scenarios. And ideally, earlier in the journey. Because if you don't check in, guess what? Like, physical retailers don't know you're actually there until you leave. Think about that problem, right? It's actually really stupid, right? And then actually most physical retailers, when you really think about it, actually ask you to identify yourself twice. Doesn't feel like that to you, but actually they do. Because what do? They were like, please scan your shopper card so you can get your in-store discounts. So you get your little piece of plastic out, or if you use the app, you scan your app. And then after that, they'll be like, okay, you owe me $50 for this transaction. Please show me a payment credential. But that's also an identification process, right? So actually the check-in, it doesn't serve multiple masters. Today it only serves specific purpose. And that's really a lost opportunity, and I think something that APIs can overcome for these retailers. How do we create a unified single sign-on, basically, within physical retailers? And that creates the stronger linkages between loyalty and payments. It creates linkage to personalization. Not to give away secrets, but like if you look at a quick service restaurant, why do they make you order at a kiosk? Is it cost? Anybody think it's cost? It's actually revenue. Because at the kiosk, they know who you are. They know you actually like apple pie, which is number one item added to the menu. Or they know that you may actually choose a McFlurry at the end. And you feel less stressed. because there's not like 50 people waiting behind you and you have to communicate with a physical cashier, a human. Then maybe anything else, right? You know how that goes. So you just gotta try to get through your menu as quick as possible. But again, technology creating not just efficiency opportunity, but actually creating real, tangible revenue upside for these retailers, all powered, again, by APIs. And then ultimately, it's gonna be a fast and secure checkout that's gonna be seamless and in control, just like your e-commerce. How many times do you really think about your payment on e-commerce aside from hitting the payment button? Not many of us do anymore, right? We just say, okay, I'm done. This is what I want. I pay. Done. Like there's some credential in the background, and I know it's going to go through, and I get notification from my bank that it happened. So I feel secure about it, but I don't have to think about it. But in store today, everything is a guest checkout. Every time I go to the store, I'm like, okay, which card am I going to pay with today? And oh, there's a new wallet. Like maybe I do the contactless thing, or I'm going to scan that QR code. It's all contact, like those are actually friction points, I believe, for most customers, because we don't really want to spend all that much time thinking about payment. We just want to basically get the best offers, the best rewards, and best pricing and get out of there. So APIs for a better experience. So I kind of mentioned already what we're seeing in the world, but I just want to quickly touch on basically what we're dealing with and how APIs can really transform this ecosystem and an opportunity for us all to collaborate on these problems. But on the, I guess, on the one of the sides here, you see traditional POI setup, right? And that's pretty common. It's fragmented hardware. There's a payment terminal, which is provided by Ingenico or Verifone. It has a specialized software, which is put on it by an acquirer or a bank. And then you have a POS system, which may actually be created by NCR. So National Cash Register, also specialized software that's actually linked to the ERP system, and then you have a scanner and a printer and all of these different things. It's not a very simple setup. It's very difficult to change, very costly to maintain. And so this is really what we're seeing, the slow transformation for merchants going through. And on the other side, you see the next-gen POI setup, where you see a simplified piece of hardware, just a tablet most of the time, with a camera. You have an RFID scanning basket, and you have a QR or barcode scanner below to be able to check in the customer with a merchant app, if they choose to check in. And so increasingly, you will see simplified hardware with integrated software, which opens up an incredibly new opportunity to define what an experience actually looks like at a retailer. Because now everything comes together in a single place, all, again, powered by the API infrastructure underneath it. It's actually a real example, like this is Uniqlo, fast retailing. Decathlon is a great other example across the world that is really innovating in terms of how do they manage the check-in. And of course, all of us that go to McDonald's are increasingly feeling the personalization and the loyalty component in terms of digital kiosk environment. Now let me speak a little bit, without getting into too much detail, around the different touch points, and they may be relevant to some of you in some different ways or another, either as an infrastructure provider or somebody that works on the front end of the customer experience. But it also always goes back to a customer, right? Well, the first point of interaction is, as a customer, I decide to join a loyalty program, and maybe I do that digitally, right in the store, right? We all get offers for credit cards, right? We all get like loyalty of invitations. But how do I make that digital right in that moment? How do I register? I recently moved back from Asia after 11 years in Asia to the US, and I signed up for my shopper card at a grocery store. I filled it in with a pencil. I probably wrote Mickey Mouse Street on there, right? Like, so there's no data verification, it's completely non-digital, and I get a piece of plastic, and I don't know what they're really gonna do with that data. It's garbage, right, basically. So there's a tremendous value of digitizing this process, because consumers just kind of shortcut. They don't want to give things away. So we don't have the right incentives, the right protocols, the right digital solutions in place to even enroll people in a loyalty program from a digital-first standpoint. Now I make the first transaction. Guess what? I already know your email address, your phone number. You just filled in your loyalty program. You just paid with your Mastercard. I authorized the transaction over my network. That's a moment of truth. If I register this customer in this particular moment, I can actually enable an enrollment capability through an API where I can combine a loyalty profile together with the payment credential without you ever having to do anything but say yes. Yes, I want that. That makes sense, that a merchant has my card and it has my loyalty ID, and next time I come back, I have a card on file-like experience. When you go to, again, my favorite example, McDonald's. If you go to McDonald's, what's the first thing they ask you? Is check-in. Okay, and then I was like playing a bit dumb. I'm like, okay, how do I check in? Like, how do I? Point one, download the app. Okay, there's no Wi-Fi here. How do I download the app? No choice to actually engage, right? So again, we see like a lot of digitization gone wrong from a customer experience point of view because they miss the opportunity to interact when it actually is relevant. I'm at a kiosk already. How do you help me register quicker, faster, more efficiently to get the full benefit of that program? And don't just tell me download an app, please. Like, I'm not going to go home and sit on my couch and be like, I think that was something I wanted to do today. Oh yeah, download that McDonald's app so I can get my French fries next time. So this is something, again, that we need to really think about. How do we take the information available at that point of time and create connections? Because it was a fragmented hardware world, a fragmented software world. Now it's an integrated software world. And we can drastically change the trajectory of that experience. And then in the future, you can link different things. You can link your biometric profile if you choose to. You can link another merchant app if you choose to. So we intensify the digital habits of customers more and more. Over time, they will start managing all of their payments digitally. I have a unified view of this customer from my e-commerce point of view, from my in-store point of view. And I start having a personalized, strong customer relationship, not just in a digital formats, but also in the physical interaction points. And so that's a little bit of the vision and the opportunity points that we see in the next 5 years rapidly growing across the ecosystem. And many merchants actually are doing it already today, even though they have to hack, so to say, the system to make it work. So this is definitely a rapidly emerging trend. So I give you, again, just to visualize it a little bit, a couple of pointers here. You don't really think about anything, right? I always assume when I design products that people don't care about my product at all, right? Like nobody here probably woke up saying like, I'm gonna go pay for something, that's fun. Let me pull out that Apple Pay wallet and get into the train, right? And like, I don't think anybody of you really care about that stuff. So why don't I just look at what you anyways are doing? You are assembling a shopping basket, right? Okay, I'm scanning my products. I'm actually just tapping my card to pay. Wow, boom, this is the moment of the API truth. I have all these pieces of data, right, assembled by the customer themselves, right? I can ask you, do you want to link these pieces of data? And they would say probably yes. We see actually acceptance rate online for this type of behavior over 80%. Most people actually say, yes, why not? Like nothing to lose. I'll send you an email, an SMS to make sure that the information you gave me is not Mickey Mouse Street, but your actual address. And I'd be able to do a cardholder verification via a security step up. And so I can send you an OTP, or I can look at your device identity to make sure that you're really who you say you are. So without ever asking you about card numbers, your address, your email, I can basically physically enroll you in the physical store digitally in 3 simple steps. And so that basically, next time you come in, you scan your merchant app with a QR or barcode, and you have a card on file experience in store. Don't have to think about checking out anymore. You just go through your drive-through, you go to the kiosk, you get your loyalty, you get your personalization, your payment already loaded. You're good to go. You just focus on what needs to get done, which is basically ordering your favorite meal, making sure you get the best value possible. Checkout is complete. You're happy it's digital. Digital receipt is available to you. Again, a fantastic new experience from a next-gen point of view that we can enable through the power of APIs. Now, all of this technology really doesn't matter if you don't have an outcome-driven mindset. And I think what we kind of set out to do as part of our effort with the industry to co-create is to make sure that whatever we do is a customer-first solution. I need to make it simple, right? Hopefully you felt like it was somewhat simple. It's one question I'm asking you, basically. to be able to transition you from a physical experience to a digital experience. So how do I get more customers enrolled more easily? And we're not talking about like getting 50% or 70% of people enrolled. But you have to remember that the baseline for most merchants today is 5 to 10% of customers being enrolled in their digital programs. It makes it it feels achievable if you can get to 10, 20%, 30%. Now, if you start doing that, that's when you start getting the ROI. Because the struggle that many of these retailers have today is they have no enrollment. And so try to go to a retailer and be like, hey, I have this great personalization engine, and I've got this beautiful biometric check-in, and I have all of these things for you. And they'll be like, yeah, but like only 5% of my customers I can truly see. 95% is just invisible to me. And so this is where we as an industry really can make a tremendous impact if we drive participation in digital ecosystems to get better return on investment, ultimately drive ticket size and growth, and then improve the efficiency. So that's all I wanted to share, and we can definitely have a bit of a dialogue, but I wanted to lay out a little bit of a view of the future of commerce, and not taking an e-commerce view, which is often taken, but actually show you the opportunity size and the kind of cool stuff that's actually happening right in the physical store, powered by technology, powered by integrated software, and powered by APIs.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I can't wait to see that happening, because I always lost between the credit card, whatever stuff, and you know, like these are the one you showed are really, they are not made by the user. Sometimes we say like, really, did the guy who designed that used it, right? Microwaves are the same too, right? Yeah. I would like to see the guy who designed microwaves and to tell me how I did that. Yeah. So we have time for one question there. Yep.
Hey, Tobias, first of all, you deserve big props for just launching into your presentation with no slides. That was impressive. My question is just, how much is security a concern when all you're doing is scanning a shopper card versus what people are used to with a physical card? I don't think it's actually much different, but is there a perception issue you have to get over when dealing with that?
No, it's actually a very important question to address. So some markets, like when I look at India, for example, the #1 loyalty program identifier is your phone number, which probably wouldn't work in Europe or US maybe to the same degree, but like we definitely from a design standpoint would be like, it's probably not a good idea if you use phone number as a way to avail of your payment credential. But we actually really by design want to drive it that way, to say like, you have the physical card, you have your phone number. We probably don't tell Walgreens like stop using phone numbers for your loyalty program, but at the same time we want to make sure that the end customer really sees the transformation in their experience. Because if we try to backward compatible everything, then like, what is the benefit of having an app? What is the benefit of signing up for biometric payments experience? It's actually quite null. And I think that's a big problem with technology often, where we actually kind of backward compatible everything. And as a result, like consumers are like, why do I do the app thing, right? Like you get the same thing, right? Walmart is my favorite, like point fingers at them example sometimes, because I do the like QR scan at the self-checkout, and then I'm paired with my Walmart pay wallet. And then I finish everything, and I'm like, okay, I got a digital receipt. Like, why did I do all of this work, right? Like, there's no point in me. And so it's back to value creation to say we need to train the customer to say, if you ultimately use the digital version of this or the biometric version of this, you are able to avail of like loyalty points, coupons, all of this stuff much more simply. And so stop using that little piece of plastic in your wallet with the barcode on it, or stop using your phone number for the loyalty. So that's really, I think, the transformation. But again, we're starting with 5%. Maybe we convince 20% to do it. And then hopefully that 20% will convince the next 20. And then within 10 years, we'll see 50, 60, 70% penetration of these experiences, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tobias. Thank you for being there. We can have a warm applause for Tobias.